DJ Forza, and I have the pleasure of being your moderator for this session. It is an innovation showcase, which is really exciting. My role at AGRA is to lead on institutional partnerships, and we know that with that work, there's nothing more important than collaboration. So we want to welcome to the stage today 4 innovators who are going to share with you their business ideas, their models, their success stories, and where they need support. So let's welcome everybody with a big round of applause. Joining us today, we have Mr. Eugene Faison, Gunnar Fruhag, Andrew Mack, and Rodney Mikuni. I think I said that wrong. How do I say it, Rodney?
Mariuki.
Mariuki.
That's better.
Yeah. I'll work on it.
Okay.
So for the way this session's going to go today is that we're going to have each speaker present to you. This is long form, so this is not a short 30-second or elevator pitch, because we really want to give them the opportunity to share with you their ideas and, again, where they need support and where they've had successes, so you can really dive into their models. So we're going to have 2 presenters, and then we're going to pause for Q&A for both of the 2 presenters, and then we'll have the other 2 presenters followed by a second round of Q&A. And then finally, if anybody wants to come back and address anything to the group, we'll also have time for that. Sound okay? Yeah. All right. With your permission, please let's welcome to the podium our first speaker, Mr. Eugene Faison.
Welcome, everyone. I'm glad to be here, and I hope you are too. It's been a busy, busy week. Would you agree? And there's been a lot of learning, and I'm really appreciative that you've taken time out of your day to be here with us this morning. So the purpose of this discussion, and I want to call it a discussion, is to talk about our integrated, modular, solar-powered, sustainable fish food hub with processing, cold storage, and value addition production. And you're probably saying, well, what is that? Well, let me explain it, and I will be certain to answer your questions. We're happy to be doing this presentation together with the International Food Policy Research Institute, a Washington-based nonprofit that consults to governments all over the world, and particularly in Africa. And we have been working on this innovation for a few years. DGrid Energy is the premier cold chain solutions provider and maker of the solar cool cube. We make the solar milk chiller. We make the solar ice maker. We make the solar post-harvest loss wash station or pack house. And we are the co-designers of this sustainable food system with the International Food Policy Research Institute. Today, what we're going to cover is the introductions, which I've just done, the expected outcome of food systems, a brief presentation of the Food System Hub, a visual presentation. We're going to talk about the integrated elements of it that are aquaponics and hydroponics, and we're going to talk about the energy cold chain and expected outcomes that are a part of this. In addition to that, we're going to explain our existing operations and what we're doing there and how it works and how it connects with food systems in Africa. And we're going to talk about scaling up and the knowledge support that's a part of this to make it work. So a food system. Can you raise your hand if you know what a food system is? Don't be shy. Okay, so there are a few people that know what a food system is. Now I know the audience I'm talking to. So it encompasses all the processes and infrastructure involving feeding the population, growing, harvesting, processing, packaging, transporting, marketing, and consumption of and disposal of food-related items. And it is focused around healthy diets. The concept you're going to hear today is modular, which means you don't take the whole thing at one time. We identify the farmer or the utilizer where they are. What are their needs? And then you can modularly utilize the elements of this system in a way that works best for them. This is an innovative agribusiness opportunity for young farmers. So at the heart of the system is focused on aquaponics and hydroponics. Can those people here who know about aquaponics raise their hand? Okay. What about hydroponics? Do you know what hydroponics is? Okay, so let me get into the detail of that. So at the heart of this is the system that provides fish protein for fresh nutrient vegetables in climate that's in a pest control hoop house. So a hoop house, you might assimilate that to a greenhouse. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term. This concept consists of food production through a highly efficient, small-scale growing system, the food processing, value addition through commercial kitchens, value addition processing through smoke drying, and it can be smoke drying of fish, it can be smoke drying of vegetables, it can be anything that you want to smoke, because that adds value, therefore you receive more money. Food processing, the food distribution and direct marketing through networks of farmers, markets, food stores, schools, restaurants, and then we close the loop on this by including composting that allows you to not eliminate, but mitigate some of the use of the fertilizer that we've been talking about all week. Fertilizer has been a big topic in this event. So here's what the visual presentation of the hub looks like. It's powered by independent solar or a mini grid. It has fish aquaponics. And the fish aquaponics, the waste that comes from the fish is utilized to enhance the nutrients and growth of the vegetables that are grown in this system. And that creates vegetables and fruits through hydroponics. And then once you have this production, how do you keep it so it stays stable and is able to be utilized over a period of time? And that's integrated into the cold chain. So you're able to then, once you have it stored, you're able to pack it, whether it's dried fish, whether it's vegetables, whether it's fruit, and then you can package it and take it to market. Now, the unique part of this is that you have already looked at what the market demands are. You know where the market activity is. You know what the market is requesting. You know what you're being asked to grow so that you can provide it to the buyer and you're the grower and selling it to them. In addition to that, you can use the compost, and the compost is utilized for animal feed, for animals and livestock. So there's a closed loop to this that allows it to not be a waste. In addition to that, you are able to have non-farming activities like health, education, and water. So in this system that we're talking about, we have a 5,000-gallon solar-powered water tank that is utilized to trickle irrigate throughout this entire process because there is in-ground growing. So aquaponics is the symbiotic production of vegetable and fish. The fish eat the food, release the metabolites, and into the water derived by food. So I've explained that to you, and you get a sense of that. The unique part of this is that you're able to harvest more often. You don't have rodents or you don't have animals that are eating the crop you're trying to grow. The energy and cold chain is an essential part of this because it manages the products that are grown. It has the transportation, the processing, the storage, and the elements that are key to managing temperature-sensitive products. So your tomatoes don't go bad in a week. In fact, your tomatoes can last to 21 to 30 days. And this is done in conjunction with the mini-grid or the independent solar that is a part of the system. So the outcome that we have here is the fact that you're able to reduce post-harvest loss, you're able to promote climate-smart farming, you're able to improve health and safety, a key condition for production of crops, and you're able to grow year-round. And most importantly, you're able to create employment and enterprise for youth and women, accessing clean and renewable energy. So scaling up, what are we doing? So the scale up of this is triggered by the market opportunities. The market opportunities that you have are going to determine how much you grow. So you're not growing just to grow, you're growing to the needs and the demands of the market. Here's the system we have in Washington that includes a hydroponic system in a hoop house, a pack house with fresh produce and packaging center, the solar cool cube, a commercial kitchen, a value addition, and a smokehouse, all run on solar. So here's the critical part. Before you're able to do this, what you want to develop is the knowledge support. You want to have a market analysis. You want to understand the infrastructure and logistics. You want to understand the sustainability and environmental impact. You want to make sure the legal and regulatory knowledge that you have for, let's say, Tanzania is applicable. You want to have education and training. You might want to connect that to a university like we've done in Washington, so that you have nutritionists, you have engineers, all of those are being trained, so you have a plethora of infrastructure that can continue to expand this and make this a sustainable activity. And then, of course, you have to have evaluation and impact assessment and take into consideration the cultural sensitivities.
Thank you, Eugene. That was excellent. I want to welcome our next speaker to the stage, but remind you all that we will have Q&A time for Eugene after our next speaker. Please join me in welcoming Gunnar Frohag. And let's all remember that not everybody in the room is a native English speaker. So Gunnar, please do enunciate so everybody can understand you. And I'm here to help in the Q&A if needed. Over to you, Gunnar.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome, Gunnar.
Thank you. My name is Gunnar Furehaug. I'm from Norway. I am out of regular work. I'm retired, so I get some money from the government. And I started to work or investigate these questions for approximately 5 years ago, and that brought me to this place now. I work with these on a more, so to say, volunteer or idealistic basis. Thanks for the invitation. Water hyacinth, or gugu maji in Swahili. In 15 minutes, it's not much, but here we go. Then I have to learn this one. Water hyacinth. What is it about? What if you do nothing with the water hyacinth? Can we solve the problem with water hyacinth? If yes, how? Water hyacinth is originally coming from Amazonas, but during the last 150, 200 years spread all over the world, or the tropic and subtropic zone. It has no natural enemies except in South America, where it comes from. And it's impossible to erase. Many reasons of that, but the seed can survive in 30 years. And it's not only spread by humans anymore, it's also spread by animals, birds, etc. More important, it grows fast. One plant can give 30,000 seed in 50 days. One plant can grow up to 600 square meters in 1 year. 1 hectare water hyacinth can theoretically be 16,000 hectares after a half year. It goes like this: 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. It doubles every second week, plus minus. Daily growth, 8% in areal. So, Lake Victoria, a place in Asia, Nigeria, Lake Tana, Ethiopia, Pudhari, India, and Vietnam. That's a river in Vietnam. They are using harvesters to remove the water hyacinth. It's almost like to see a mouse trying to eat the elephant. Hundreds of studies and articles from the last 50 years, from 1950, I think the oldest study I ever read about this, they are saying the same things. It grows fast, it creates problem, but it can also be beneficial. In the water, it absorbs pollution, it absorbs carbon dioxide, but that's all when it is in the water. The threats call for action. The most important threats, it's increase evaporation 8 to 10 times. It stealing oxygen from the water body, from the top. It blocks waterways. It's a lot of reports telling about increasing with Malartia and Bilharzia. And it destroys the fisheries. Eventually, it sinks to the bottom, and an anaerobic putrefaction starts. So the sum of this is that the water hyacinth has the power to permanently change existing ecosystems and thereby have a negatively affect on the lives of millions of people all around the world and also here in Africa. Can we ignore it? Well, subsamples. Lake Tana, Ethiopia. Approximately at the time when I started to study that, they discovered a 50,000 hectare big pad on the lake, which was blowing to the east coast of the lake where the breeding places are. So in over 2 years, the withdrawal of the fisheries fall from 12,000 tons down to 1,000 tons. Lake Baringo, a small lake in the middle of Kenya, only 108,000 square kilometers. The same happens for some years ago. The outcome from the fisheries fall dramatically. Of course, from a fishing nation like Norway, 300 tons is not much, but for the people who are living around the coast in these areas, it's dramatic. Lake Victoria is, you all know, one of the biggest lakes in the world. We have some facts about it. More than 300 endemic species are already erased. More than 3 billion people have direct linked to the lake through the fisheries. The commercial values of the fisheries is $600 million, and the catch is now going down. All fishermen are saying the catches is going down, and it's dramatically unbalanced in the ecosystems in the Lake Victoria. So we have to ask, what is the consequences if we are losing 500,000 tons from the people's table and from the market? And what will it cost to wait until the collapse is a reality? I will not try to answer that, but take a sidestep. Why isn't Lake Victoria covered by water hyacinth? I started to talk about how fast it grows. And I've tried to calculate it based on a given number that it's approximately 10,000 hectares water hyacinth in the Lake Victoria now. It should be covered after 1.5, 2 years. But that is not happening, and it will not happening. Maybe that is bad news, because it's easier to fight the water hyacinth when it's on the surface. But what's happening is what I started to tell. It sinks. So then I'm thinking, how much is sinking? If the science is correct, then the areal grows with 8% per day, with 10,000 hectares. Then it's the conservative number is 40 million tons per year, which is growing and sink to the bottom. It produces methane. It's stealing oxygen. The breeding places became destroyed. The fishery escapes and or dies. So we have to shout out, red alert. You see, it's bad at the top, but maybe it's on the bottom, the most disaster unfolds. What will happen with these 17 goals in these infected areas? I shall not say anything about these goals because you all know them very well. And I shall not try to answer the question. We'll just tell a story. A good story. Dalarieko, a place for knowledge in the Luo language. The building to the left is a white elephant from 2008 and earlier. The same building and the area is on the right picture. A group of people started to use water hyacinth as an agent for making fertilizer, making compost in 2008. They also did some other smart things, as controlling the water using solar energy. And they have now 20 different crops in combination. They have 4 good crops per year, not against normal 1.5, 2. They produce much more food than they need for themselves and for the local market. More important, this was an area with a lot of hunger in 2008. Now, people in Dalarieko are not longer afraid of hunger. And it's involved up to 20,000 people. Some samples they are using, they have produced this for their own. Solar panels, incubators, they are producing this. Lot of chicken, solar panel for pumping water. Mostly women picking up water hyacinth, making compost. Rotting plant make perfect fertilizer, soil improvement. So when we are talking about smart agriculture, clean energy, decarbonizing, end poverty, erase hunger, and women employment, health, Dalarieko practice this every day. And they have done it this last 15 years. So, I also said this could be a valuable research. People around in Africa, in other places, are making a lot of products from water hyacinth. It's good, but it's not do any big difference for the situation in the lake. What I am trying to do, together with some partners, one of them are here, we are asked ourselves, what is there is a limitless need for? Yes, it's animal feed, compost and fertilizer, clean energy. All this is a limitless need for. So we have now, in the process, we are making animal feed from water hyacinth. We prove it is possible. Not alone, but together with some other ingredients. Fertilizer, mulching, show it, Dalarieko is doing it. Clean energy, we are doing it. Bioethanol, that is one of our partners. Animal feed, that is our first pilot production. Soil improvement is from Dalarieko, it is our partners. And we have also other partners. So when we manage this, it will have positive impact on the lakes, the soils, more meat, more milk, better public health, better economy. So instead of reversing all these 17 goals, we will see a positive impact on all 17. 2 minutes left, so I'm almost finished. So the answer is we can turn an ecological catastrophe into economic, social, and environmental benefits. And then we must have focus on creating products for which there is a limitless need, but we can only manage it if we give effort in motivating and mobilizing the people who are affected by this. We are doing it, we can do it more, but then we need investors and we need direct support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gunnar. Now we're gonna have a quick Q&A, but please stay here because we have 2 super exciting speakers coming up that are gonna share their innovations with you. But in the meantime, can I ask the tech team to have the roving mics ready? And do we have any questions for our amazing speakers, Gunnar or for Eugene? Raise your hand if you have a quick question.
Thank you. My name is Tom. I work for an organization called Kickstart. My comment or question goes to Eugene. Thanks for a very insightful presentation and for sharing all that you did. And put into context, in my view, of course, I felt it didn't take into consideration the background of the African smallholder farmer. I got the impression, and I guess I'm wrong, that to get to or to improve on food system that leads to better diet, healthy diet, we need to impact on the critical mass, the smallholder farmer. And they are not where they can access the good ideas that you expounded in your presentation. And I felt maybe we need to have a more focused presentation that targets the smallholder farmers in Africa. Thank you. Just adding on that is because I realized that the focus there was on a couple of things which are very good, but then the smallholder farmer here does not have disposable income that can enable him or her access all that. Financial inclusion is still very low, and in the presentation, I thought it was outside beyond the context of smallholder farming in the continent.
Thank you for your question or comment. Eugene, did you want to respond?
I think I understood what you were saying. Correct me if I'm wrong. That this was beyond the capability of smallholder farmers. Is that your basic statement? Okay. So the point here is that this is a modular system. So you don't have to have everything. You can start off with the solar water pump because you want to have trickle irrigation to be able to utilize water more effectively. That might be the starting point. It could be any other point within the chain or the supply chain that was described. I think the key point that we're trying to make is that it's evidence-based. When something is evidence-based, you're going out before you start digging, before you start selling, before you choose the crop, and you find out where the need is. And then you get the market. Once the market tells you what the need is, you can construct a relationship with the point of purchase to supply them with the product. So it's not all, it's parts of. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Eugene. Just a reminder that at the very end of this session, we'll have time for more Q&A. So if you want to come back to Eugene or have some additional questions, there will be space for that. Now at this time, I'd like you all to bring some energy to the room. Help me welcome our next speaker, Andrew Mack.
And I don't sit very well, so I'm going to go ahead and try and engage you. I'd like it if everyone would. My name is Andrew Mack. I'm the CEO of AgriMovil. We are a data company that is working directly with small farmers around the world. Okay? Raise your hand. Everybody raise your hand. Right hand. Okay?
Right hand.
So keep your hand aloft if you've ever used Google, everyone. Keep your hand aloft if you've ever used Uber or a similar service. Everyone, right? Okay. So what's the problem that we face around the world with small farming? But the problem we face around the world with small farming is that small farmers don't have the capacity to raise their hand. No one can see them. No one can buy from them as a result. There's no data about small farmers. AgriMovil is a platform that is designed to solve that problem. So it came out of a personal experience. I've worked in probably 34 countries in Africa at this stage. And I was sitting by the side of the road about 5-6 years back with a group of farmers outside of Abuja in Nigeria. Typical scene you might see anywhere. Small farmers, big bags of stuff. They've worked so hard to grow these things. They have absolutely no idea who's going to come and pick them up. And literally all of the work of their hands is going bad in the hot sun. Right? No visibility between the farmer, the transporter, the buyer. No one knows what's being produced. No one knows when it's going to be available. So we sat down and we said, there has got to be a way to solve that problem. And this is the way. The person on the left, and I'm sorry for the quality of the photo, I had to send it as a PDF, is Wilbert Ndete. Wilbert, please stand up. Wilbert runs AgriMovil in Tanzania. Wilbert is a brilliant trainer. Wilbert is a lovely person, an agronomist and an ag economist. And Wilbert is our only person right now in Tanzania. This is important, and I'll tell you why later. He's working with Mama Chana, who is an onion producer and onion seller. And you can see there are lots of onions in the background. But those onions aren't being sold, right? Mama Chana needs to connect with the traders. She needs to connect with the supply chains that want her onions. And she wants to sell them when they're at their highest value. And she wants to sell them in the quantity that she wants, right? And what Wilbert is doing right there is showing her how to get on a very simple matching platform that is part of AgriMovil that allows her to connect in with not just one buyer, not just one intermediary, but with thousands of buyers potentially. So we looked at this at the very outset in a very straightforward way. What's the size of this problem, right? And it's not unique to Tanzania. Around the world, there are about 575 million small farms. Okay? And if you took those, according to FAO, if you take those small farms and you put the losses together, those are losses of about, to the small farms, losses of about $350 billion, billion with a B, right? Every year to small farmers, of which over 100 billion are goods that are produced that are never even sold. About 30% of the goods that are pulled out of the ground that small farmers produce are never sold. Imagine getting 30% more money for the work that you're already doing, right? So the first thing, of course, we want to do is make sure that we match up people who have to sell and people who want to buy, right? But it's not just small buyers. Small farmers, once they're in the data stream, can work with larger supply chains too. Larger buyers who have the ability to have longer-term contracts with them, buy at greater scale, sometimes provide inputs and financing, right? And if you look at the size of the problem, it's not just the buyers who can't find goods, it's also the consumers. We had a meeting yesterday with Ricolto, and one of the things that they were talking about was the fact that there are many parts of Tanzania, and certainly many other cities on the continent, that are increasingly seeing food insecurity in the cities. So you've got on the one hand, too high prices for the consumer, and on the other hand, too low prices for the farmer. Well, that's clearly a miss, right? Now, Tanzania is a huge country. What makes more sense? That the goods and the people move, or that the data moves, right? The data. So the key thing is real-time visibility. Now, everybody in this room got one of these, right? I assume so, okay? About 40% of the farmers that we work with have them. But we know that around the world, within the next 3 to 5 years, and a smartphone now is $23 in Nairobi. Within the next 3 to 5 years, there won't be any dumb phones left, right? Everyone is gonna have the access to a smartphone. So the question is, what are they gonna use it for, and how can they use it? How can they use that new technology to create real value for the farmers themselves? So what we did is, we mentioned Uber and Google at the beginning, and I wanted to mention them in part because they do the very first thing right. And so what we did is we created a platform that does exactly that. AgriMobile platform has 3 pieces: posting and matching app, messaging, and analytics. On AgriMobile, you can set up a profile. You can be a farmer to set up a profile in less than 5 minutes. You can post goods for sale, talking about what you have to sell it, and what you want for it, in 30 seconds. So the key thing is super simple to explain, super simple to use, and to engage people throughout the process. So what we've seen is, it's the first thing, farmer raises their hand, right here, can match with a buyer, right? Between harvests, we've talked a lot about the idea that people need to be upskilled, the people that need to understand how to improve their production. Helps with the work that Ag Extension is doing. And on the back end, analytics, so that supply chains can see what's out there. So the key thing is, when we talk about data, we're almost always talking about top-down data. It's the government, it's the donor agencies that are reaching down from the top. We wanted to stand this on its head. Who is the person who is most interested in ag data? It's the farmer, right? They've got the most to lose. They want to signal the market, to tell them what's going on. So what we've done is we've created a very simple way for them to do that. Every time you post goods for sale, you are signaling the market. You are signaling the market, what do I have? When is it going to be available? How much do I want for it? Am I a man? Am I a woman? Am I young? Am I old? And then policymakers and others get to be able to see how to better serve you. You can track it in real time. This is really crucial because with the way that we collect data currently, it's immensely slow. So rather than waiting and spending a lot of money on consultants, the farmers start the data conversation because it is in their interest to access the market. We don't come to the marketplace as strangers. One of the things that we've learned is just how important trust is in everything that we do. So when we go into working in a market like Tanzania, we're going to want to work with trusted partners. 2 reasons, very simple. Number 1, trusted partners have trust, right? So we're coming in with someone that a farmer already trusts. If you're asking someone to do something new, ask them ask one of their friends to invite them, right? But the second thing is that it is easier to get people on in scale. We are not going to solve the problems of small agriculture around the world unless we do it at scale. There are 1.5 billion people in the small ag ecosystem around the world. 1.5 billion. Think about that. That would be the largest country on earth. 95% of those people are off the data map, right? That's crazy. Africa is a data superpower if we can unlock it. These are people who are consumers. These are people who are potential borrowers. These are people who can really move the needle on their own livelihoods, their own. Take that first action. But they've got to get visible. So we reach into the marketplaces we reach into new markets in part by working with the partners that people already have. Just to give you a tiny bit, very short, this is how it works. It is free to the farmer. It is easy to understand. 45% of all the people in Tanzania who work with AgroMobile, we've never met. They've been trained by their own co-ops, by their own lead farmers, by their own friends and family from the neighborhood, right? From the village. 5 minutes, it's actually, we're down at this point now to 4 minutes to get people up and running on the platform. And we built this with farmers. So we know it's easy, and it's in whatever language you want. So in Tanzania, it's in Swahili, of course. We're working in Latin America, in Colombia, it's in Spanish. We're working in Ghana with Guinness, it's in English. Messaging is really important because between harvests, what we find is that people at the edge, people at the village level, oftentimes lose connection to the countryside, right? To the technology. But they also lose connection to their co-op. They lose connection to their supply chain. So one of the things that we designed was a simple interface that allows us to push information out to the farmer so that we keep them engaged. Because the learning process, we know the learning process takes time, and we also know that there's information that the farmer needs between harvests. Last thing, we have the ability to report incredible data. You've got a project, you want to know where the women are? We can literally slice the data so that we can say, okay, here are the women farmers in our database, and we can message directly to them, we can report directly to them, directly about them. We want to know where the women tomato farmers are? We can do that. We want to know the women tomato farmers between 25 and 35 who post on a Tuesday? We can tell you that. And we can also tell you, are women posting the same amount as men? Are they posting the same prices as men? We know all of this. So, Wilbert, stand back up. This is our entire management team in Tanzania, responsible for over 1,000 farmers in less than 9 months here in Tanzania. The numbers are a little bit old. We passed $8 million worth of value that was posted on the platform, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I think it's closer to 9 million now. More than 9,000 tons of goods that have been posted on the platform. We've participated already working with a big Tanzanian avocado grower group to help them unlock a $670,000 export deal. We know that this can make things more efficient and put more money in the hands of both Tanzanian farmers and Tanzanian processors, exporters, supply chains. The goal? Simple. Better prices for farmers, better product availability, mapping, and the ability to make this whole ecosystem from top to bottom, from consumer down to the point of production, more efficient. That's what we do. We are looking to grow massively in Tanzania. and in other countries. We look forward to partnering with you, and it's been a real pleasure to talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are going to do questions for the speakers, but first let's bring our final speaker to the stage with a very warm welcome. Please welcome Rodney Miriaki.
Good afternoon. Wow. I couldn't help but notice that my face is the smallest one and the youngest. And we're talking about innovation. So power to the young, right? I'm here to talk about FarmForce, and my name is Rodney. I'm the Global Sales Director for FarmForce, and I'm going to take you through a journey, right? And Andrew has really taken us through the journey of Agromobile, And it's interesting to see how far you've come. We are also a data and tech company. We're always looking to partner and work because we believe you're a small jigsaw in one big puzzle. FarmForce was developed in Africa, in Kenya, about 12 years ago, with the help of Syngenta, right? At its core, it was a traceability tool, and it's a traceability tool to help farmers access higher value markets. And I'm going to take you through how we were able to achieve that, some of the metrics, some of the farmers, and I'm going to bring a lovely lady on board, on stage for 2 minutes to tell you a bit more about the story that we've been able to achieve. So this is how we're going to go through today, our story. I'm going to tell you a bit about FarmForce so that you can understand the history and the purpose, because we're a purpose-led, for-profit company. Our impact into farmers, what we've done in Malawi, in Tanzania, and in Rwanda, and helping farmers access up to $2 million from 2017 for financial credit access. This is not the revenue, this is credit that they have accessed, right? Around 160,000 farmers. And then, after our impact, I'm going to tell you what's in store about the future. So a bit about our story. I touched on our development, and we started as a non-profit in 2012 by the Syngenta Foundation, and then in 2017 we were incorporated as a private Norwegian company. After that, we built our business model on our SAS model with the three key target customers: multinationals, developmental organizations, and SMEs targeting the export markets. And then in 2023, we've extended our multinational footprint. We've grown about 47% on our customer base in about 16 to 18 months. And then there's the big elephant in the room. If you were involved in food systems, the major commodities have been affected by the recently passed EU deforestation regulation. And the US is on track to pass its own, as is the UK. So we are helping farmers be compliant and continue enjoying and accessing these higher value markets, right? And so, walking you through, it is a platform, just like Agromobile, and many other platforms that you have seen in the industry. We are one piece in the jigsaw. We're a cloud-hosted web and mobile solution through a mobile app, which has the capability to work both on and offline, right? Understanding the context with which we work. Most farmer areas have limited or no connectivity, right? And so we had to develop an agnostic tool that allows all our users to be able to access this information, upload into the cloud when they achieve or access a connection. It was designed for every unique first mile. So what is first mile, right? Because you saw that on the cover screen, and it's appeared now. What we seek to tackle is the mile between the farmer and the first point that their goods have after harvest. For coffee, that could be a washing station. For vegetables, it could be a collection point. And the market could be either local or international. It does not matter, right? To date, the app has close to 8,000 users. We have about 72 global customers and partners that we work with. And We have about 1.1 million active farmers. And by active, these are farmers who are actively engaged on a daily basis. If we took the whole data set of the farmers who've been registered, it's close to 10 million, but 1.1 active farmers. We are in about 33 countries, and the software is now available in 18 languages. We have offices in Latin America, Africa, Asia, in Bangkok, and our headquarters in Norway. So moving on. So how does the solution look like? To date, we have covered about 127 different value chains, right? With the major export and local commodities, your maize, your soya, your coffee. Cocoa is our biggest, covers our biggest footprint in both West Africa and Latin America, as well as Asia. This is how the software dashboard looks like. So what is traceability, right? I do appreciate that we're here to talk about food systems, but not many of us would understand what traceability entails. You need to understand where your supply comes from, the farmer. What's the nature of the farmer? We support our customers and partners to record basic information about the farmers who work with them. So their biodata, their sex, their family members, especially for human rights dependent value chains. What do I mean by that? For cocoa and a few other supply chains, they have been historically known to have some human rights issues attached to them. So what our customers told us is that they would like to monitor these human rights issues through this period. So we record whether the children are going to school, how far they've gone, what they're doing over their holidays through this tool. In addition to that, you've got the basic information about their fields, their cropping cycles or their open seasons, the surveys, and what I'd like to focus on today is the accounts, right? We've got a loan accounting system that helps our customers and partners access track records on repayment, issuance and repayments of loans to farmers. The sole or single biggest issue that the smallholder farmer is that they are locked out of the financial system. And the story we're going to hear today about our impact is how we were able, one of our partners was able to build a solid track record using the FarmForce virtual loan and savings account system to tap into the market and thus accessing close to $2 million of credit through banks. Not donor funds, not philanthropy, but through the commercial system, right? And then at the last point, you're able to record the polygon data, right? What is a polygon? A polygon is at least a 3-point map or a single 3-point mapping system that identifies your farmer field or farmer location, right? This is how it works on the ground. We've got 3 main solutions. The first one from the bottom is the farmer-facing app that is now in 2 languages. It's in Chichawa and English, soon to be translated into Bahai, which is the main language in Indonesia. We've got the IMS system, which is in 18 languages. That is the field staff or field agent-led approach. That is the one in 18 languages. And then the GMS system, which allows our multinational operations to have a full view of their global sourcing countries. Our biggest customer uses FarmForce in about 21 countries. So they need to understand how their supply chain looks like all year round. These are the data insights that our customers are able to benefit from. I just want to point on one thing. That's the hot topic here. Deforestation and carbon, which is at the bottom. When I talked about the EUDR, customers are able to access a diligence reporting system that we have partnered with the WRI, which is the World Resources Institute, a site called the Global Forest Watch, so that they can be able to report on the carbon impact of their farmer operations and get a diligence report to access higher value markets, right? With this, they're also able to generate carbon measurements to access carbon credits or other carbon-related financial mechanisms. Our impact. I would now like to call upon Dinah, who is the Director of Programs at the Clinton Development Initiative in Malawi. Dinah?
I think I'll stand there. Hi, everyone. Basically, I work with the Clinton Development Initiative. As Rodney introduced me, I'm Dinah, and we've been using FarmForce to help farming communities respond to some of the challenges that they face in their farming business. So one of the challenges that farmers face and that we are all aware of is that limited access to finance. So for the financial institutions in Malawi, they require that farmers should have a credit record for them to be able to access finance. That's just one of the requirements, apart from the collateral and everything else. So as the Clinton Development Initiative, we decided to provide them with input loans. So we use FarmForce as a platform to track the loans that we're providing to farming communities. So we did this over a period of 3 years. We provided them with input loans amounting to $410,000 US. And then as a result of that, since FarmForce allows us to record the loans and also record farmers or groups that are able to repay those loans, we're able to filter those that consistently manage to repay the loans and link them to the formal financiers. So as a result of that, we saw that farmers since 2019, they've been able to access more than $200 million from formal financial institutions. Like for instance, in Rwanda, they've accessed loans from the Bank of Rwanda. They've also accessed loans from Standard Bank of Malawi, and also in Tanzania, they've been able to access loans from TADB. So there's been progress in the way that farmers are accessing finance because we're able to track that in FarmForce. And even the finances that they're accessing from these financial institutions, we're also using FarmForce to record those transactions. And because we are also able to, like Rodney shared, record the cropping cycles, we call that the planting campaigns, we're able to track farmers' yields. And because we have the confidence that farmers have grown a particular crop and they're going to, we got there to do the yield sampling, and we know how much they're estimated to produce, we are able to use that data to link them to markets. And as a result of that, we've been able to link them to Africa Improved Foods. Like farmers in Malawi have exported their soybeans to Africa Improved Foods in Rwanda. They make fortified foods for mothers, children, and all that. And we've been also able to sell some of the crop to Export Trading Group and also Sansido in Malawi. So again, with the market, we've seen that farmers have been able to get to markets that are offering them very competitive prices. And like with the loans, like I mentioned earlier, that we've consistently hit that 100% repayment rate for the case of Malawi. So since 2019 to 2021, you see the Standard Bank is going to tell you that farmers have consistently been able to repay their loans. And over 50,000 farmers have accessed loans with an average of 8% repayment rate. So basically, by the end of the day, we've had some impact there. You can see that 6 million of revenue has been generated by farmers in Malawi, Rwanda, and Tanzania. 2.6 million trees have been planted. 75,000 women are engaged in training. We also record all the trainings in FarmForce. And also the locations of all these farmers that we work with, we geotag them in FarmForce so that it's easy for us to track them. They've also been able to access finance, like I said, from Bank of Kigali, TADB, Standard Bank. Those are just few of them. And farmers have also benefited from climate smart agriculture training that we provide. And we have established more than 3,900 groups. And even if the groups are able to track which groups are doing what. So some of them are in fish farming, some of them are in like community-based financial organizations. So FarmForce allows us to track all of that so that we know, like for this particular group, what is it that we're doing with them. And also it also gives our partners confidence. If they want to meet a farmer, we can just give them the location, if they're able to meet them. Thank you.
So as a result, what does the future look like? For the Clinton Foundation through the Clinton Development Initiative, they used a phased approach to scale up this program. They started in Malawi in 2016, moved into Rwanda, moved into Tanzania. The Clinton Foundation has now been confident enough to shift and change its entity and name to the Community Agribusiness Partners, registering individual organizations in each of those countries so that they can be able to access finances directly, as opposed to the traditional donor arrangement where funds would probably be channeled through the UK or other Western markets, right? If you remember, what she mentioned is that in Malawi since 2019, 100% repayment rate of all the loans for the smallholder farmers back to Standard Bank in Malawi. In the rest of those countries, the figures are at 88%. These are the so-called unbankable credit farmers. I remember my friend from NMB. You're listening? Perfect. So, what does the future look like? I'm happy the banks are listening. The farmers are actually accessible. We build that track record for them. Financial sustainability is economic, social, and environmental sustainability. If the farmer is financially empowered, they won't have to cut their trees down for charcoal, right? They won't have to side sell so that they can pay their school fees like they normally do, right? And so if we're able to build this financial track record reliably so that we can put them in the commercial financial system, they will be able to have a changed livelihood. Their children will have no child labor issues like we do with some of the supply chains, right? And with that, they can access alternative financial markets like the carbon markets we're all talking about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rodney. Now I'd like to invite the audience to ask questions. If you have questions specifically for our last two speakers, Andrew and Rodney, I'd like to start there. Please raise your hand if you have any questions.
Hello, my name is Desmond Ikirima. I'm founder and CEO of Adron Digital. My question to you is, based on the services and support you're issuing to farmers, have you considered the use of drones to bring efficacy within your platform in terms of crop insurance, geotagging, and precision spraying? Thank you.
I assume that question was for me?
Both, but Agromobile as well.
Okay, so you can start. So what we have understood with precision agriculture and the use of drone system in some of the supply chains, we are customer driven. There are some of our customers who use data that is captured on drones to input that data on the system. So like the amount of water, the amount of chemical inputs that are used within those products that they sell or process from, and they can be able to report more accurately. For crop insurance, it has not spread out to all the 33 countries, but a good chunk of them in Africa, like in Zambia, in Kenya, like we do have those financial products, they have been accessed. Thanks.
Thank you.
From our side, we believe that simple is best. And one of the, when we first launched this, we talked with about 1,000 different farmers in different countries, right? And what we were hearing back from most of them was, all of this is too complex for me, right? So it was a barrier to entry. If you think about Google, what is the difference between Google and Yahoo? Google, you know exactly what you're going. You're going to search, right? You go to the front page of Yahoo, it's a little of this, it's a little of that, it's a little of everything. There's a reason why there's a verb to Google something and there's no verb to Yahoo anything, right? And I think, so the way that we work with these kind of contiguous technologies is that we provide the ground up data that makes it possible for people to use the top down data to connect, right? And so what we would be working, we are working with finance companies, we're working with large supply chains like Guinness, we're working with cooperatives, whatever service, we're working with the cell phone companies. They're all trying to reach the farmer. And so what we do is we want to stay in our lane, right? And we would partner with people like new technologies like drones.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Please, the floor is open to any of our amazing speakers.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Daniel. I'm a founder and CEO of Narenzi International. So my question goes by, how do you reach those who are reluctant to change? Basically, there are those farmers who are stuck in the old traditional ways of farming, and through word of mouth, somewhere there is someone buying these crops, and how do you maintain and get to them to agree to join in on the app? Because what I know, I am Tanzanian, and not all of, and you did mention that in a few years to come, we'll be using more smart technologies, but what about those who are still reluctant to change? That is my question. Thank you.
I will go ahead and start on that one if anyone else wants to jump in from their side. But we've had exactly this same experience, right? We have users on our platform 16 years old through 76 years old. Now, obviously, a lot of the older people didn't grow up with this technology. We get that, which is one of the reasons why we made it as simple and as frictionless as possible, so that you start off with the one thing that is the most important to you, which is making sure that your crops get sold. And if you're the buyer, the one thing that is most important that starts the conversation with you, which is, where can I find the things that I'm looking to purchase, right? Everything else comes, the discussions of sustainable and regenerative, the discussions, all of these other conversations happen once we're already talking, right? And the thing that we're already talking about is the thing that is most important to you, which is, how do I feed my family and get good value for the crops that I've produced, right? So what we have found in a lot of instances, about 40% of the people in the areas that we work have really good connectivity, easily good enough to work with us. Somewhere between 20 and 40% have smartphone access. What we found is that because the value proposition that we offer them is so straightforward, right? They can, if they don't have access, if you don't have the literacy level that you need, someone in your community does. If you don't have a smartphone, but your kid who is studying in the city does, you call them on your YAM phone and they will work with you to get you registered on the platform. We made it as simple as possible so that you could take those first actions. And once you do, you start to be, even the minute that you start to be on the platform as a poster or as negotiating with a potential buyer, you're already creating a data stream, which then a finance house could be interested in, right? 3 C's, I'm a former banker, 3 C's of credit, right? Collateral, character, and in this instance, crops, right? Now, collateral, many farmers don't have. Character, I have to go out to the farm to meet the farmer, 2 hours out to the farm, 2 hours back from the farm, right? That's a whole day, even if labor is free. So your crops, if we can recognize those, that streamlines the process, and we work with a 400,000 person credit union in Colombia doing just exactly what but the first thing is getting them in.
Thank you so much for the question and for the answer. Any other questions for the audience or from the audience? I see one. I see another one. I have a question while the mic is getting over there. Let's say that we're at AGRF in Kigali in 2024. Each one of the speakers, can you please just give us 30 seconds on what would be amazing to happen for you and your organization by the time we get to AGRF next year? 30 seconds.
For us, it would be able to have an illustration or a deployment that included some portion of our food hub, fish hub concept.
What would you like to have happen in an ideal situation between now and next year? Very short answer.
Okay. We are in the middle of establishing a company in Kenya. We want to go around the coast in Lake Victoria. We are searching for supporters and investments so we can go on with the work we have started. That's the most important for us now. At this stage, we are taking the money out of our own pockets. The most of us has not much money to this. I am one of the partners. The rest of the partners is living in Kenya. Thank you.
A year from now, we want to be introduced on the microphone by a number of the partners that we've met during this meeting. We want to have grown our company 50-fold, and we want to be starting to expand into one of the 20 other countries that have already requested that we operate there.
Thanks, DJ. We've had many meetings since we started. Of those partnership agreements and commitments that we've had, if the next time I can come with some of the farmers, that would be the best thing for me. Yeah.
Yeah, round of applause. This is great. So I saw that we had a couple questions in the audience.
Thank you. My name is Anna Minja. My question goes to Agromoville. So what kind of criteria did you use to select the type of crop that you facilitate buying and selling? Because I understand that you do for onions and avocado and something else. Why only that? We have many crops. Tomato, for example, it has a lot of low peaks and high peaks, and it's perishable. Why did we choose only those kind of crops? And we have an age selection in the app. What does age have to do with the business, with food trade business? Does it build trust if I know that I'm buying from an older person or from the youth? Why do we have age in the app? Thank you.
Thank you. Those were two really great questions. So the answer is we are completely agnostic about the crops, okay? We can put anything for sale on Agromobile. And in fact, in Colombia, we have over 100 different things that have been placed for sale on the platform. We started off in Tanzania with 2 crops for 2 reasons. One is to make sure that we understood Tanzania enough to make sure to get all the kinks out of the system. Anytime you're launching a new technology, you want to start with start small to make sure you get everything right. The other thing is that we had the opportunity to work with Taha and with the Nchida, an avocado grower group, and we already had willing partners who had thousands of members. So we figured we would start with those 2. But there is nothing that keeps us. We've had 5 conversations just this week about tomatoes. In fact, we had one just over dinner last night. So tomatoes is on our very, very short list. In terms of youth, great question. Okay, we talked about earlier. One of the earlier questioners talked about getting people on the platform and how much farmers are really ready to take up the smartphone and things like that. Couple pieces. Number one is there is a lot of interest amongst youth. So 65% of all of our users in Tanzania are youth farmers, right? The second thing is that, look, there are both private sector investors as well as donor and foundation communities that are very interested in reaching out to tomorrow's farmers. Why? Because if we don't have tomorrow's farmers, we won't have tomorrow's food. So they are quicker adopters. They are very interesting consumers on the sell to side. And it's just another way that we can, just in the same way that we want to reach out, have the ability to reach out to women farmers, you may have a different message. They're actually the ones who are doing a lot of the training out in the countryside of the older generation.
I thought I saw one more hand. Any more? Oh, yes, sir, please. Please rise and introduce yourself with a very short question, please.
Okay. In the beginning, in your introduction, you mentioned about the Uber thing and everything. These services are actually made in a way that cars are standard and everything. But when it comes to crops, we have different qualities, different value and everything. How do you ensure a link between the consumer and the producer are satisfied in terms of quality and everything? Does the application also cover that aspect?
It is a great question, but it is unfortunately an impossible answer. Reasonable people, reasonable agronomists may disagree whether this orange is a large, small-sized orange or a small, medium-sized orange. In order to guarantee quality, you really have to see the goods in most instances, right? So what we've done is we've said we want to match the buyer and the seller as quickly and as closely as we can. They will sort it out. What we found is that in almost every value chain, there are standards that are shared by both buyer and seller. And if you sell something that is bad product, you get to sell it one time and then you're out, right? People will reject you. So there is a certain level of kind of self-correction in the market. There's the ability to push out on the platform the standards that you're looking for and things like that. We can't guarantee that people will be honest. What we can do is that what we can is guarantee that they can find each other and then start that conversation, and that's really where the magic starts.
Thanks so much. Any more questions?
Thank you. It's more of a follow-up to what Agro was saying. I am a farmer, by the way. I farm rice. So what we usually do is that we make sure that the quality is top quality. So when you go sell, the first time you sell to someone is the second time you're going to sell. So if you mess it up at the beginning, you will mess it up towards the end. So we have to make sure, for example, rice, we have grades. Grade 1, 2, and 3. So for you to be able to get that super rice, you have to perfect your processes. So that is what happens. So I wouldn't go on a platform selling something that is grade 2 while I want to enter the international markets. So that's all I wanted to just say. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Rahim Shaw. I had just one question for FarmForce. First of all, congratulations for the work that you've done, and being a Tanzanian who's also working in the agri-tech space. That's why I would say that. But one thing that would also help me in my endeavors and a fellow agri-tech, I mean, how do you see the credit product being adapted maybe for the mass market? I remember you mentioned the NMB guy there. I know he's very interested in hearing more from you, but I'm also interested to know how do you see the product being adapted at the mass market level, the credit product, considering, of course, the policies that we have in Tanzania and the technology adoption in general?
Because financial sustainability trickles down to the other three, right? How do we include these farmers into this credit facility bracket, or where they can access finance? When we started the project in 2016, we wanted to build a concept that could be scaled and is provable. Most commercial institutions, we have tried different models, but the bottom line is they want a track record, right? And so what we did is we built a track record for each of those farmers. Initially, finances were revolved through the CDI fund. All the farmers who had a good track record graduated into the commercial banks. That was the initial $410,000, and that ran from 2016 to 2018, right? So that we could ensure that there was a chance of near 100% repayment. Because as he said, if you fail the first time with the commercial banks, they're going to put their money elsewhere. And so when we built that concept, we validated that concept with the farmers in Malawi. We transitioned into Rwanda. We had the Bank of Rwanda, who joined in, right? And then into Tanzania with TADB. That concept has worked so far. And now to scale it further, we are going to build upon these learnings to spread it out to hopefully more countries in the next couple of years.
I think you had the final question, sir.
My name is Huzefa. I'm one of the partners also dealing with the Hyacinth initiative for Guna, which presented. But we are also into the cassava business. My question is for Agromobile and FarmForce. Have you considered any USSD solutions for those farmers who are not in a place where maybe the network is good, or there is no possibility of having smart phone solutions? And secondly, we in the cassava business, we mostly deal with buying from SACCOs. We avoid going directly to the small-scale farmer because the small-scale farmers want to aggregate their crop together and sell it through maybe a SACCO or a collective industry. Now, how do you leverage your data collection whereby the SACCO is the one who has the data for the farmers, unlike going directly from farm to fork?
Really great questions. So can I just ask for very brief answers? We got to wrap up.
Okay. USSD has one challenge. When there is literally no network connectivity, it will not work. which sometimes is the case for the people who operate. But when you've got a charge on your phone and you've got a map or an app that can work offline, you can collect the data and it can link up once you get a connection. That's the first answer to the first question. To your second question, as you saw with the Clinton Foundation, we've registered about 80 co-ops and 3,900 farmer groups since then. That is only with Clinton Foundation, one of our partners. In West Africa, we've gone a step further with our cocoa-based farmers, where co-ops are actually the customers who use and run FarmForce. They access the markets themselves, they access credit facilities themselves, and they trade directly with, for example, in Ghana, the Cocoa Board, and in Ivory Coast, the CCC, which are the national export trading bodies for those commodities.
Yeah, I think we look at the market very similarly. In Ghana, we work with Guinness. Guinness buys sorghum to brew beer. It's good beer. And they work with 30,000 farmers through 12 aggregators, right? So one off-taker, 30,000 farmers, 12 aggregators. And what we find is that though there are connectivity challenges, most everybody has a phone or has access to a phone, and many of them have access to smartphones. Within the next 3 to 5 years, there will only be smartphones, right? So the only real question is whether they're going to use data or not. They may not have ever, or certainly in the near term, access on their farm, but they don't need to. People move to go and buy their inputs. They move to go and get food, for their table that they don't grow. They are coming into contact with connectivity. So that's never been really an issue that we have seen as a big issue. In terms of using the aggregators, that is exactly what we're doing in the case with Guinness, right? Guinness's aggregators want to know more about the different Guinness farmers. And in fact, for the aggregator, it's important for them to have a growing list of potential suppliers, right? Because if somebody side sells, or if there is a problem with a harvest in one particular place, there may be more, or frankly, if they're selling more beer, right? So we work nicely with aggregators as part of a value chain. And we're increasingly doing that. We had a conversation with a big bank yesterday where we were talking about working with associations of traders here in Tanzania, right? To get them financing. In order to do that, they're going to need to have data on what the traders are pulling from the countryside and how those transactions are going, because so much of it is still informal. I think that this is an issue that is solving itself, and we would rather think forward about where we're going to be in 3 years.
Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a long form sort of setting, and I kind of had my doubts about it, but I, think from your participation, from your excellent questions, that, there's a demand to hear more from these innovators. So you have my commitment that I'm going to follow these guys, and also hope we have some more women next year. But I want to see where this goes, and I'm super excited about all of your innovations and all of the ideas you're putting together. I highly encourage everybody to get their information. We're going to have to step outside because we have to give the room back. But I want to thank you all for your time. I want to thank Diana from the Clinton Foundation, and I want to thank everybody from the tech team who've made this so seamless. And please, everybody, let's give these amazing innovators a very, very warm thank you.